Good evening and welcome to Tuần-san News of the Week. My name is Emma Doe. In what's making headlines this week, a Vietnamese musician protesting President Donald Trump is evicted from her house. A Vietnamese cybersecurity company claims it can trick Apple's face recognition technology. And Footscray's Saigon street market is back for summer. In this week's top story, a Vietnamese dissident musician and activist was harassed by unknown figures at her apartment in Hanoi after she protested against Donald Trump's visit to the country. Mai Khoi, who says President Trump doesn't care about human rights, was seen holding up a banner as the US motorcade passed through the street. Khoi and her Australian husband told The Guardian that a man and woman forced their way into the couple's home later that evening, claiming to be employees of the building and ordering their immediate eviction. Although the strangers eventually left, Khoi's eviction notice still stands, and she says strange men now linger around the couple's apartment. Khoi was evicted in July this year for her political statements after police raided her concert. US President Donald Trump has urged Vietnam to buy weapons from the United States during this week's ASEAN talks. President Trump told Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc that the US made the greatest missiles in the world. He also offered to help mediate the South China Sea dispute. But Vietnam's President Trần Đại Quang said he wanted to settle the territorial dispute through peaceful negotiations. China and Vietnam on Monday released a joint statement saying that they've reached a consensus over disputed areas in the South China Sea. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Vietnamese Communist Party chief Nguyen Phu Trong during a state visit to Hanoi on Sunday to discuss the country's bilateral relations and maritime issues. Xinhua news agency reports that the Chinese and Vietnamese counterparts reached a consensus to uphold peace and stability in the South China Sea, as well as advance maritime cooperation. China claims nearly all of the South China Sea, which is one of the world's busiest waterways. Taiwan and 4 ASEAN nations, Malaysia, Vietnam, the Philippines and Brunei, have competing claims. Vietnam and China have had several clashes at sea in recent years over the disputed waters. Philippine troops have rescued 3 Vietnamese sailors abducted by a group of Islamist militants 9 months ago. According to Filipino media, the troops were able to track down the bandits and launch the rescue operation near Cang Tipayan Island in the Sulu archipelago. They also recovered the remains of another Vietnamese sailor who had died in captivity. The Vietnamese sailors will soon be reunited with their families in Vietnam. The victims were all crew members of the Vietnamese vessel Giang Hai and were abducted by the Abu Sayyaf bandits in February. Of the 17 crew members on board, 2 were killed while attempting to escape, and 10 were rescued by Filipino troops, while the remaining 4 were taken hostage. A teenage girl has tragically died in Vietnam after being electrocuted in her sleep by her faulty iPhone charging cable. Police in Hanoi said Lê Thị Xuân had reportedly rolled over onto the torn cable and as a result was exposed to the live wire. The 14-year-old schoolgirl was found unconscious by her parents and rushed to a local hospital. Doctors were however unable to revive her and pronounced her dead. The charging cable is being inspected by authorities, but they are yet to determine whether it was the original Apple wire or a third-party device. A Vietnamese cybersecurity company claims it can use a 3D printed mask to bypass the new iPhone X's Face ID security system. Just days after the iPhone X hit stores, the Vietnamese company released a video showing a $150 3D printed mask could unlock someone else's iPhone X device. In order to exploit the technology, the mask requires a digital scan of the face of the phone owner. Netizens have expressed doubt over the Vietnamese company's claims, with others calling it a downright fake. The Wall Street Journal has also attempted to fool the iPhone X in the past, but it has failed. Charity workers in Vietnam are educating factory workers across the country's industrial parks about human traffickers. Traffickers have been known to target workers, tantalising them with the promise of well-paid jobs in foreign countries. But through multiple workshops, the Pacific Links Foundation is warning workers of false advertising. Victims are often lured to overseas countries only to land in jobs with measly wages and a huge amount of debt to their traffickers. With their passports then confiscated, they're trapped in poor working conditions. The number of Vietnamese students in the United States has increased consistently for 16 consecutive years. Those figures are according to the US Institute of International Education's annual Open Doors report. The report for 2016 to 2017 shows that Vietnam remains the sixth leading country of origin for all international students in the US, with nearly 22,500 students. The report found that international students now make up 5.3% of all higher education students in the US, up slightly from 5.2% last year. Of the 22,438 Vietnamese students in the United States, 68% were undergraduates and 15.6% were graduate level students. Back to news in Australia. A Vietnamese woman charged with the hit and run of a 13-year-old girl in Melbourne's north has appeared in court for the first time. 41-year-old Thi Nguyen from Sunshine North is accused of hitting the girl who was riding her bicycle on a Coburg street. The crash left the girl in a critical condition with head injuries and broken bones. Nguyen turned herself in 5 days after the crime and remains on bail. She will face the court again in March next year. Melbourne's western suburb of Footscray is bringing back its bustling night market, offering plenty of street food, live entertainment and merchandise stalls. The Saigon Footscray market, located on Leeds Street, is running every second Friday of the month from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Market goers will have the chance to try food courtesy of some of the area's best restaurants. Following the success of the winter night markets held earlier this year by the Footscray Asian Business Association, the Spring Carnival themed markets have already begun and will operate until April next year. That's all from TV Tuần-san News of the Week. For more stories, you can follow TV Tuần-san at tvtsonline.com.au and Facebook at TV Tuần-san. I'm Emma Doe, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to your company at the same time next week.